If I meet a woman and I want to make her, the partner that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, I expect her to sit at home her entire life and wait for me, not interact with a single male other than potentially father and brothers, not interact with a single other human male, not one, and wait for me, because she knows I'm the one. The second we lock eyes, she knows I'm the one. Don't know how we're going to interact because she's going to be at home where she should be, not interacting. In fact, no, I don't even want her to interact with me because that means she's talked to a man and she's a whore.
This is the moment that social freedom officially gets cancelled.
Does body count matter? Well, yes. In a sense, but not for the reasons that you might think.
Now, in today's video, both myself and Ben wanted to put together some content that wasn't just your typical cookie cutter red pill advice, recommending that if you are to get a high quality woman, you need to make sure that she's worn a chastity belt since childhood, and she's only ever going to take that bad boy off once you get married. That's not our incentive for this video. So if you are a red pillar that's like, yeah, let's keep the women in the cages and don't let them express their then you might as well just turn off this video because we're actually going to be giving some advice and some perspective on both men's and women's sexuality and talking about high lay counts, low lay counts for both genders. We want to give like a very holistic view from perspectives of full-time dating coaches that have been traveling the world now for like the last 5 years and helping guys for the last 10 years improve their dating lives. And we just wanted to give a very holistic view on lay count and sexual exploration in general for both men and women.
And really answer the question, does it matter what someone's body count is? Firstly, let's start with the current climate in the red pill space, because I think this is important and one of the reasons why we kind of wanted to do this video. There's a lot of gurus out there and podcast hosts who have this view that if you want to find a high quality woman, she has to have no sexual experience whatsoever. She needs to be a virgin and is going to have her first experience when she's deflowered on her wedding night. This is just not a realistic view in today's current day and age. You got to remember, sure, we are somewhat wired to desire women who don't have a huge amount of experience, but you got to remember, women are sexual creatures just like men. One of the strongest urges that us humans, men and women, have is procreation. You know what that means? That a lot of the time, girls just like you are thinking about sex. They want to have it just like you. And just like you, women want to have a certain amount of experience and novelty. Just like you want to have experiences with a certain amount of different people, women also have that same desire. I'm sorry, but it's biological.
The only reason why a lot of guys think that maybe women are like these cute little innocent creatures that would never want to have sex until they're in a relationship or in marriage or whatever is because either our mums have convinced us that that's what women want. I know that that's what my mum kind of promoted when I was younger. She always said, like, Alex, if you were to ever have sex with a girl, you need to make sure that you go on multiple dates before you ever make a move. And you need to court her properly, buy her flowers, take her out for dinners. And it is a really big deal for women. So make sure you treat it with care and respect. And once you do get her into the bedroom, light her some candles, bring her some flowers, make sure you spend hours of foreplay and be really, really, really gentle. So that's the one reason why I think a lot of you guys think that is because of the indoctrination from our mothers. I don't know why they did that, but they did. I think you could relate to that too, yeah?
Yeah. My mum used to describe that if you were to have sex with a woman, it means that you need to have the desire to be in a relationship with that girl or you're going to break her heart. Like, it's this huge deal. The moment you have sex with a girl, fireworks are going to explode in the background as you mutually orgasm, and it's going to be this huge thing. But really, in reality, it's just once you've gone out and had a decent amount of experience, you realize it's just not that big of a deal for either parties. Girls are horny. So are men. People want to have sex. Is totally normal. But I think that a lot of the reason why men are kind of coalescing around this red pill view that they should only go for girls who have very minimal experience is because of a certain level of frustration that men feel that sex is so much easier for women to have than men. And that's true. It's much easier for girls to acquire experience than men do, because for men, you gotta put in a little bit of work if you want to have some experience, whereas you're just an average looking girl. You could go to a club and you go, I consent, and she will have probably multiple suitors try to shove their schlongs inside of her. But I understand it. It's a frustration that a lot of guys do have, but the thing is, it's just reality. There's nothing we can do about it. But when a guru's out there describing that, you gotta have a virgin or someone with no experience, it shows that that person themselves has very little experience with women or in relationships. Because when it comes to choosing a long-term partner, when you are choosing someone you want to spend a long time with and someone who's going to have a high likelihood to stay loyal to you, going for someone like a virgin is actually not the best decision. And you learn this with experience. And the thing is, if someone's saying only go for virgins or girls with very little experience, unless she literally thinks that she is going to hell and her soul is going to burn for eternity if she was to put a willy inside her before marriage, then that is actually not a good idea.
Oh, willy and vagina. Anyways, I'll stop being a 3-year-old. So, before I actually jump into that, I wanted to make my second point, because I said there was a few reasons why guys have this view that women aren't really into sex, right? 1, the indoctrination from our mothers. 2, you have to understand that generations before us, we all, in most cultures and most societies in this world, have had some form of religious upbringing. Christians, Catholics, Hindu, Muslim, wherever you are in the world, there's probably been some form of religious sort of push in terms of men and women dating, relationships, marriage, and sex, right? Especially for the Western world. Let's not even really bring in the, Eastern Europeans or other more conservative cultures for now. Let's just talk about the West, right? Because I think most people probably, if we're talking about body count, it's probably mostly going to be for the guys in the West and for women in the West as well, because let's be honest, if you go to other places in the world, it's not even something you should be discussing, because again, they have very strong religious sort of conditioning. But because we had that years ago from our parents, that's still been pushed upon us. And in those views, during that period, those views have started to diminish. There's not as much emphasis on the religious importance of a woman being a virgin. And now that we've had feminism come in, women are a lot more empowered. We've had birth control and stuff as well. So I guess more casual for both sexes is now, I guess, I don't want to use the word promoted, but it's more acceptable, yeah? But because of the previous conditioning that's been handed down to us, there's still a lot of slut shaming. So women are consistently told that they're absolute whores, or they're sluts, or they're disgusting, or they're not high quality women because they are no longer virgins or they've had a lot of experience with men. And because of that, we then as men shame the women for when they have their first experiences in high school or coming into college or whatever it is. There's still a lot of slut shaming. So because of that, men still think that for women to have a lot of different sexual experiences or to have an appetite for it or have a curiosity or want to try different things, they don't think women are like that, because we've been indoctrinated by religion from previous generations, and then also our mums primarily shaming us. But anyway, I know that's a bit of a rant, but I just wanted to talk about that as well, because I think that's important, and I think that's a big reason why, body count has had so much shame over the years, especially for women's sexuality. But anyway, let's go back to Ben's point. I'm going to talk about some of my own personal experiences here, but before I go into that, I just want to put emphasis on this. One of the biggest things that will kill a relationship, is curiosity. There's 3 things that keep long-term relationships going: sex, communication, and money. If you can solve all those 3 things, most of your relationships are going to go pretty good, especially when it comes to marriage and longer-term relationships. But the biggest reason for breakups and divorce is sex. And one of the big contributing factors to this is if you end up being with a virgin, what happens is women get curious. If they've only ever been with one sexual partner and they've never gone out and actually had the chance to explore, try new things, try new people, have new experiences in general, that curiosity starts to build up. Why? Well, at the beginning of the relationship, you have the honeymoon stage. So like when you're first with your new partner or whatever, you guys are hooking up all the time. There's obviously a lot of sexual chemistry, a lot of sexual tension. You're probably having sex like 2-3 times a day for the first year, depending on how high libido is. And that's awesome until you hit year 2. Then, even then, it's still pretty you're still having a good time. Year 3, it starts to diminish. Year 4, oh shit, you start to just lose almost, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of interest, sexual interest in your partner. Year 5, it starts to almost diminish completely. Now, when that sexual interest starts to diminish, this happens for both men and women, but especially for women with lack of sexual experience, when they start to diminish their desire for their partner sexually, they start to wonder, oh, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with the relationship? Is there something wrong with my man? Maybe it's because my boyfriend is not, providing enough of the sexuality that I would like to express in the relationship. Maybe he's not sleeping with me enough, or maybe he's not letting me live out some of my fantasies, whatever it is. Maybe someone else would be able to actually do that. And when that seed starts, boys, it starts to grow, man, into a big off tree to the point that the chick is just going to eventually just go, we're not having sex anymore. I'm still really horny. I'm not really having that much interest in my partner. Maybe I can find something elsewhere because I haven't gone out and tried new things. I haven't had new experiences yet. Like maybe I can find something better when it comes to a sexual partner. And that curiosity, man, that is going to kill more relationships than anything else. And look, I'll be honest, that curiosity will also kill relationships for men too, because if men haven't also gone out there and had a few different experiences and tried a few different flavors in the world, we also will have that same sort of phenomena kind of pop up. But I've just noticed for women specifically, this has been a really big one. And I know, at least from my own anecdotal experience in my relationship, which has then helped me see this in other people's relationships as well, moving into the dating world and becoming a coach. When I was 18, I had my first ever girlfriend, and I'd had maybe 2 or 3 experiences with women at this time. I wouldn't really call them experiences though, because I believe I lasted probably about 10 seconds with each one of them. You all know what it's like when you have your first,
Doesn't matter how.
Oh God! Like I remember my girlfriend always complain, like, you've always had more experiences than me. I'm like, mate, I don't think 10 seconds counts. But anyway, back when I got with my first ever girlfriend, she was a virgin, and I had a few experiences. And even back then, I kind of rationally thought this in my head. I'm like, shit, like what happens if I'm with this girl for a good couple of years? And then she starts to build resentment towards me because she'd never actually had the time in her earlier years, in her prime years, of looking the most beautiful, having the most freedom, not having any like big job commitments and stuff like that, and having the ability to travel and do different things. What happens is she starts to build resentment towards me because she hasn't gone out there and explored her sexuality. And that thought popped up, and I asked her, I said, hey, like, are you sure you want to explore a long-term relationship with me right now? Like, we obviously have a great connection. I really care about you, but you haven't actually gone out there and tried anything, and I'm worried that at some point you're going to get curious and want to try different things and have different experiences. And she looks at me and she goes, baby, no, I love you. I couldn't even imagine being with anyone else. I don't care about having all these experiences. It's never been something that I've been interested in. The sex I have with you is amazing, blah, blah, blah. What the fuck does she know? She's only ever had, one person inside of her. But anyway, I felt with the level of novice experience I had at the time, I felt like, oh yeah, I feel reassured. That should be fine. Like, maybe this girl's not going to get curious. Anyway, fast forward 5 years, and I remember her maybe 2 weeks before we broke up. This is the only sign that I now know is a sign, many years later, after having more experience with women, that this was actually her kind of seeding the idea of us potentially breaking up. She actually brought up the fact that maybe we should have like an open relationship. Now, if a girl ever in your relationships, boys, ever says, should we open up the relationship? You're done, bro. Like, this is her basically trying to exit that relationship and look for experiences elsewhere. Or maybe she's even met someone, but she would like to explore sex with that person, but she doesn't have the confidence yet to break up with you. And anyway, this is when this first popped up, and I was like, why do you want to open things up? And she kind of said, well, like, to be honest, like, I just haven't had that many experiences. You've tried different things in your life when we were younger, and I've never gone out and explored. And this is the first time I'd ever heard this kind of pop up from her. It blew my mind. So I didn't think that much of it, but I shut that shit down real quick. Because I actually considered it at first. I was like, okay, like maybe this could work. Because like even me, 5 years in, I was like a little bit bored. And I was like, maybe having some new experiences could kind of spice things up a little bit. But then I thought about it. I'm like, man, I'm working 6 days a week at the moment, 13, 14 hours a day. I'm the main breadwinner in this relationship. I'm trying to set us up in terms of getting a house and potentially starting a family. I got to hustle. Where am I going to find the spare time to meet chicks? And I thought, like, this chick is, she's built this big social circle. She's got a lot of friends at the moment. She has a workplace full of options. I'm like, how's that going to work? And I just thought, no, I don't want to do that shit. That's like, she's just going to have like a new dick every week, because it's so easy for chicks to get laid. It's so easy. It's just unfairly easy for them to do that. And I went, nah, that's just not going to work. Anyway, 2 weeks later, she'd moved out with another guy, blindsided me in that relationship, broke my heart, and then set me on a 5, 6, 7 year self-development journey to be where I am now. So I can thank her for that, for breaking my heart. But the reason why she left, when I asked her, like, what's the biggest, contributing factor to why is this relationship not working, she basically just broke it down to, I just haven't had any time to go out and experience new things and try new people, and it's just something that I think I need to do. And I remember just going, fuck me dead. That is the last time ever I will actually go out of my way to date a virgin. and be in a situation where I'm going to get blindsided out because of curiosity. And the thing is, I thought that maybe had just been like a me thing. I thought maybe that was just one of those unlucky circumstances that it was just happening to me. So I didn't think that much of it until I went out and started dating a lot and having a lot of different experiences with women. And specifically meeting girls out in clubs back when I was going hardcore, learning game and pickup and stuff in club environments. I remember meeting a lot of girls with boyfriends and having conversations with them. And I started to bring up the relationship in terms of the sex dynamic. How often were they having sex? Did they still love their boyfriend? Were they starting to get curious? Especially with the girls that had only ever had the one partner. You know, when you're in clubs, usually meeting girls like, 18 to 23. And if I'm meeting like a 20, 21-year-old, maybe she's had a 4-year relationship or whatever. Most of the time, that's their partner is the guy that they lost their virginity to. And they were saying the exact same thing. Like, honestly, like I'm starting to get a little bit bored. I would like to try new things, but I'm not sure if I should stay with him. I still love him, but I want to maybe open things up. And I remember just hearing this over and over and over again. And then meeting people like Ben, and then other guys in the dating and self-development pickup community that also had their own traumatic experiences with women starting to build up their own curiosity in their relationships. I'm not sure you actually went through that, but I know that you'd also had friends that had went through a similar situation or whatever. And that's just made me realize like the importance of women's exploration when it comes to their sexuality, especially in the modern era. We've got the feminism out here promoting women positivity and shit. Like, you go, girl, you want to get trained by a bunch of black guys. I'm not necessarily saying that they should go out and go to that level of extreme, but I genuinely believe that I think if you are looking for a long-term relationship and you have a girl that has very minimal experience, you should at least at minimum be a little bit skeptical in the back of your mind and think to yourself, okay, has this girl gone out there and had enough experience to actually figure out what she likes in the bedroom? Has she had a chance to explore her sexuality? Does she have preferences? Has she had enough experiences that she's no longer going to be curious? So when you guys actually hook up and you potentially get together and start a long-term relationship, you're not going to get blindsided 5 years in because of curiosity. That's my perspective.
It's primarily the fact that she needs to know that this is special when you guys start dating. And if she hasn't had enough experience before starting dating you, before hooking up with you, she doesn't know if it's special, and that will eat her up. That will eat up any girl, and women are very similar to men in the fact that they want some form of novelty as well. Curiosity kills relationships. So you want her to have at least a little bit of experience, maybe a couple of boyfriends as well, so she knows what kind of relationship she likes, what she likes in the bedroom, and also so she knows from experience that when she meets you, that it is special, that it is something she wants to commit to, that it is something she could stay with and is a viable option long term. That's so important for long-term relationships. And the open relationship thing, I've seen it a few times now. The second a girl mentions that she wants to have an open relationship, that means that your relationship is over, my friend. Whether it's going to be in 2 weeks after, 3 months after, however long it is, that relationship is done because she's now looking for other partners. When it comes to relationships, a lot of the time, women are often serial monogamous. They will stick to the one person they have an emotional connection with. This is usually how it works. If a woman starts to feel the desire to be physical with other men, it usually means that there's some form of emotional detachment that is happening because women are naturally more serial monogamous. Now, this is due to our history as a species in terms of women would usually stay with a man or spend enough time with a man to have a child and spend enough time with each other that the child could now have a certain level of autonomy, and then they will find other partners. Human beings, if you look at all the research, we are not naturally completely monogamous creatures. We're not. And when it comes to animals in general, there is, I think, 1 or 2 maybe animals in the entire animal kingdom that are sexually monogamous. It is incredibly rare, and we are not one of them. In general, monogamy itself is something that's more cultural than it is biological in sense. So when a woman does start to feel and desire those feelings for other people, it usually means that, yeah, it's now time to move on and find something else. When we lived in tribes of, 100 people, the likelihood, if we connected with someone, the likelihood of her meeting another potential suitor that she is going to be more attracted to than you in her entire lifetime is so low that, yeah, sure, monogamy was without having experience beforehand, long-term viable. But in today's day and age, girls will have more potential options. Hit her up on Tinder than most girls 2,000 years ago would have potentially interacted with in their entire lives, then yes, you can understand that there is an issue with choice. And with human beings, if you've ever been in the cereal aisle, sometimes it's hard to choose if you have too many options. Women and men, we're exactly the same. With too many options, it makes it harder to make a solid long-term decision. If you look at it just in terms of, again, a general biological sense, then monogamy itself is somewhat cultural. If you read books like Sex at Dawn, this will give you a really good idea about humans' general mating strategies and how non-monogamous cultures can be. So our culture itself is still very, as Alex said, very much affected by religion in terms of how we view sex. So I would suggest for anyone who's curious about learning about other types of sexual cultures, then you should read Sex at Dawn and see that things can be very, very different in terms of judgment of lay counts and sexual openness, etc. Another good book if you want to learn more about female sexuality as well is My Secret Garden by Nancy Friday, I believe her name is. And that's another great book in terms of learning about female sexuality and how weird and wonderful and beautiful it actually is compared to men's. Men's sexuality is actually very boring compared to female sexuality. However, it's just that females have a lot more judgment and fear about expressing what they truly want.
And on that note too, maybe we can talk a little bit about why it's important for guys as well to go and have more experiences. Because if you're a guy that doesn't have that much experience with women and you haven't had much experience in sex in general, you're probably not the best lover. You're probably okay, but you're not the absolute best. You probably aren't aware of some of the kinks and fetishes and fantasies that women actually have, desire, and want to live out. And because of that, just you're not going to give her a very fulfilling experience. So just like with women, it's important for them to have their fair share of experience. And we're going to talk about like what's too much experience and what might potentially be a bit of a red flag. We are going to go into that, but I just want to talk about some of the pros, yeah? It's important for men to have these experiences too, because you can actually decrease women's curiosity in relationships is when you can just be like a next level lover. Yeah, one of the big things that actually generates a lot of curiosity with women is if they're hanging out with their female friends and they're having like their little girl chats and they're talking about sex and relationships and stuff, which they do all the time. And all their friends are saying how they have like all these different orgasms and they've lived out all these like BDSM fantasies, or they've got like a kinky hippie boyfriend that experimented with tantra and all this shit. And she's a girl that hasn't had that much experience and she hasn't lived out any of those crazy, wonderful experiences that you can give a partner. Then that curiosity is just going to build, and she's going to hear that from a variety of different people in their social circles, and they're going to feel like they're missing out. And if she's in a relationship with a guy that hasn't helped her actually have those experiences, because you yourself haven't had enough experience with women and enough experience with exploring your sexuality and playing with different dynamics like BDSM or sex toys or tantra, different sex positions, trying to have sex in public, and just all these crazy, wonderful, enjoyable, thrilling experiences you can have with someone, then that for you yourself is going to be probably detrimental to a long-term relationship and satisfaction as well. So I think even for guys, even probably more importantly, is you need to go out there and have a lot of different experiences, uncover women's sexuality, like, you know, reading the book My Secret Garden, because this will just completely expand your mind in terms of what women really think about and how dirty and wonderful they can be when it comes to this. It's almost concerning, actually, if you really get into it. Like, you know, some of the things that I've heard girls want to be into, bro, it's just it's concerning.
And there's a huge variety, spectrum of sexuality. Some girls are more vanilla and some girls are a little bit more crazy. It depends on the girl herself, just like with men.
I guess really to cover it all, you can date a virgin, but just know that most likely the curiosity is probably going to kill the cat at some point. And if you're a man, go out and have a lot more experiences because you want to become the best possible lover you can. There's other benefits to why you should have a lot of experiences too, not just in terms of sex, but we're talking about body count and lay count and whatever the in this video, so I think that's why I want to put emphasis on it. But I think that's another reason that I wanted to talk about for men, is just having a better understanding of female sexuality, becoming a better lover, and also for yourself, not living with the regret of having the experiences that you wanted in your youth, and also having that build-up of curiosity that could potentially kill the relationship for you as well.
Let's talk about the double standard.
Oh, yeah?
The big, fat, gleaming elephant in the corner of the room, the double standard. And a lot of time you'll hear it in the West. Girls like, why is it okay for a man to hook up with a lot of girls and he's a champion or he's not getting judged, but a girl, if she hooks up with a lot of guys, she's a slut or she's judged? Well, There's a few reasons for this, but let's just look at it in the most simple sense possible. So, as human beings, we place importance on things that are difficult. If something is difficult, like having, say, a six-pack, something difficult to do, we are impressed by that. Just like having something like a Lamborghini. That is not something that's easy to do. We are impressed by that. However, if something is easy, we're not impressed by it. So, just due to general biology and mating preferences and mating reasons, obviously women have been the more selective sex when it comes to sex itself for millennia, because there are potential consequences. Now, obviously, with the miracle of modern medicine, that's not something that women worry about as much now, because it's something that they can easily deal with. However, biologically, in our brains, we still have the remnants of those dating behaviors, and that's why women are more selective than men when it comes to becoming physical. For men, there is really no repercussion when it comes to sex. With women, there is a very large potential downside, and that's why they're more selective. So, for a man, it's actually quite difficult for him to have a lot of sexual experience. It's difficult. So if a man has a lot of sexual experience, it is something that's actually, in a way, somewhat impressive. And that's why if a woman hears about a man who having a very, very high lay count, she tends to not be turned off at all. In fact, some girls are somewhat intrigued or even impressed. It's not usually a turn-off. Unless it's incredibly high, then sometimes they might have some health concerns, right? But other than that, it's not necessarily a turn-off. However, for a woman to have a high lay count, it is literally the easiest thing she could possibly do. If there is one thing that is easiest for a woman, it is having sex. It doesn't even matter what she looks like. If she wants to have sex, she'll have sex. She could be 150 kilos. If she goes to a club, she could be a literal one. If she goes to a club and she says, "Excuse me, someone want to have sex with me?" someone's probably going to do it. Some dude is going to be like, yep, I'll do it. Fuck it, yep. And it's probably not going to be too hard. It's not going to be hard at all.
Just to add some emphasis to what Ben's saying, right? You have the characters like Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips, or whatever the their name is. And for the people who might be not familiar with those two, they're two OnlyFans girls that have set out a challenge to have sex. One of them set out a challenge to do 100 men in 24 hours. And then the other one was like, I'm going to beat her. I'm going to out OnlyFans this chick. And I'm going to do 1,000 in 24 hours. There is no reality. There is no reality as a man. Even if you are 6'5", jacked, and you are the definition of an 11 out of 10, are you going to be able to just shoot out a message to your big social media following and say, hey girls, I'm going to do 1,000 girl challenge. Who would like to rock up? I can promise you now, if he's lucky, he's going to have few girls that are enthusiastic and, you know, probably empowered feminists that are like, yeah, it sounds fun, he's hot, like, f*** it, why not join the world record for sex with a hottie? No worries. Maybe she gets a few of those, and maybe a couple of ugly chicks that are just like, oh, this is my one and only chance ever in my entire life, I'm going to be able to get with a Chad like this. So maybe you'll get a handful of girls, like 20. Lily Phillips or Bonnie Blue, I think it was Bonnie Blue, one of them, somehow shot out a post on her social media and had 5,000 men, 5,000 applicants apply to have sex with her in the 1,000-man challenge. I'm sorry, if that doesn't show you how easy it is for women to have sex, I don't know what will.
And it's not like she's this incredibly attractive, like, genetic specimen of a human. She's just your average, like, 7. She's just an average chick. You just wouldn't see that. If your average 7 dude just posts on the internet, hey, who wants to have sex with me? Even if he has a huge following, probably not a single person would show up. But you have this chick have 5,000 applicants in 24 hours. Who knows how many more she would have had. But literally dudes lining up at the door to have sex for 45 seconds. You're not going to have that as a man. You just don't have that. So just on the most basic sense for people, when it comes to, like, we are impressed by things that are difficult, it's just not hard. And that's why, number one, it's not a turn on in any way. And in fact, it can be a turn off for a lot of guys because it is so easy for a girl to do it. And I think this is potentially a good time to talk about why high lay counts are less attractive for men.
Well, actually, I want to jump into that, but I also want to talk about.
Keep going.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going. This is like more and more people keep coming up here. They want to check out the sunset, so we better get this video over and done with before people keep listening to us talk about body counts on the rooftop. But the other thing that I want to mention, when women complain about the double standard. They often will frame men as insecure. They're like, oh, like the only reason why men shame women for having a lot more sexual experience is because they're just insecure little weaklings that, you know, are just jealous that, you know, as women we can go out there and have sex. And it's like, well, I used to think about that and go, well, like maybe that is true. But then I had a lot of experience with women that made me think otherwise, and I'll explain how. When I was much, much younger, I remember having a conversation with my mum. I don't know why I was talking to my mum about this, but I don't know. I guess I have a good relationship with her. And I told her one day, I said, Mum, I could never be in a relationship with a girl unless she's either a virgin or she's only ever had sex with 1 or 2 people. Anything beyond that, for the rest of my life, that's disgusting. I'm not doing it. And it's just like, I would just heavily, heavily shame women's sexuality. Now, looking back at my younger, silly little immature self with a lack of experience with women in general and sex, I realized that actually was genuinely coming from a place of insecurity. For me, I remember either I must have been a virgin or maybe had 1 or 2 experiences myself, and I didn't feel that confident in my sexuality. I didn't feel that comfortable in my sexual performance. I know I was struggling with premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction. I didn't know how to do different sex positions. I didn't know how to give girls a good time. Yeah, okay, it, man. Like, I was feeling pretty insecure, dude. And I think a lot of young guys with a lack of experience also feel that insecurity. So we can't help but kind of maybe shame women's sexuality because we're like, if this chick's been with lots of different dudes, maybe she's had a dude that has a bigger dick than me. Maybe he can outperform me in the bedroom. He can give her more orgasms. He's just going to be a better lover in general. So I actually totally relate with that. I actually agree with when women kind of get angry at the double standard and frame men for their insecurities. I get it. But here's the nuance here. I've now traveled the world for many years now, and I've had more experiences with women than I would actually like to admit, to a point that has actually been somewhat detrimental to my own sexual psychology, because there is such thing as too many experiences, and there is such thing as like having too high of a body count. And we're probably going to, that's what Ben was actually about to segue into, I think.
I was going to talk about women first.
Oh, women as well.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it for both men and women. But now that I've had so much experience, I look at it and I'm like, I still would prefer a girl with a much lower lay count. I don't agree with my younger self thinking that she should only have like 1 or 2 sexual partners. I'm now a lot more liberal in that sense. And I want her to actually have a lot more experiences, not crazy amounts, but enough that she's not going to get curious. But now that I've realized that as a guy that's had way more experience than most men, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just not a big fan of chicks having a lot of different sexual experiences. Then I've realized it's actually not from a place of insecurity, and I'm speaking about this from a place of authority because I've actually gone out there and done the thing. So for any women that may be watching this and keep calling guys insecure, sorry love, it's not insecurity. And you know what? Even if I am insecure, maybe it's a subconscious belief that I'm like, no, I just don't want her to have any sexual experiences. Then, look, this is a preference and I am insecure. I'm embracing my insecurity. It's just what I want. So if you guys are out there too and you would prefer a girl with a lower lay count and you're getting shamed by these feminists because you're being insecure, one, get more experiences so you can be like me and at least stand from a place of authority, but also just embrace your insecurity, bro, because I understand you. I'd prefer a girl with less experience, and we're probably going to segue into why that actually is a preference for us as well.
Before I get into that too, I was the exact same when I was younger. I would heavily shame girls. I thought that there was if they'd had more than, a couple of sexual experiences, if she'd ever had a one-night stand, like she would give her body away to someone she doesn't even know. That's disgusting. Where did that come from? That came from a place of bitterness and judgment from me, because it was so much harder for me to get sex than for her. If guys do only want a girl who's a virgin or with no experience, usually is an indicator he's had very little experience, because he hasn't gone out there and had the experience necessary to know what is healthy and what is going to be good for a long-term partner. Now, let's get into why men, even after all the experience we have had, still will judge women to a certain degree when it comes to the lay count. As I said, because it's number one, it's easy. But number two, if a girl has a lot of sexual experience, so let's say she's 19 and she's like 35 dudes, then that's a solid indicator that this girl is fighting demons. Now, I'm not trying to be too judgmental here, but it's like, if she's doing that, it's a good indicator she has, number one, low self-esteem. She puts a low value on herself. It's usually an indicator as well, if a girl has a lot of experiences, that people aren't locking her down. It's a red flag, because if a girl is having all these experiences, usually a girl, if she hooks up with a guy she likes, she wants to keep seeing it. However, if she has a really high body count, then it means she keeps hooking up with guys who don't want to see her again. So either she's aiming for guys who are out of her league, or she has red flags that make her, say, less desirable. So there's a few reasons.
Or just as another perspective, she's just not really respecting sex and intimacy in general, and she's leaving. So it's like, if you were to get in a relationship with a girl like that, what's to say that at some point she doesn't get bored and have that craving for sexual variety or attention or validation from other men, and then just bounce out of the relationship too? I think that's another important factor.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that in there.
And that's when it comes to like a general attraction on the front end. When it comes to a relationship, a long-term relationship, if a girl's had more experience, it means her threshold for becoming physical and sexual with a man is lower. There's less of an emotional barrier when it comes to becoming intimate with a man, which means that for a long-term relationship, if this girl has had more experience and a barrier for becoming physical is lower, then she is going to be more likely to cheat. She's more likely to take that step because it's so much easier. There's less of an emotional barrier. So you also don't want someone who's completely burnt out their emotional barrier when it comes to becoming intimate with someone. So again, there is a level of sexual experience where it's problematic for a girl. It's not a good idea for a guy to hook up with this girl because she's dealing with low self-esteem, she's looking for love in the wrong places, and she's more likely to not be faithful because her emotional barrier for becoming physical is just lower. It's just more likely for her to hook up with a new person if she does start to feel that desire for someone else, or she's not feeling fulfilled in the relationship. She starts to feel that feeling of the grass is greener on the other side, etc.
Yeah, and I think like one thing I do agree with some of the red pill content I see out there is they talk about a concept called pair bonding. The problem is they talk about pair bonding for women as being the big problem. If they've had too many sexual partners, they no longer have the ability to pair bond, meaning they want to stay in that relationship. They can create deeper emotional connections and stay more monogamous for a longer period of time. That's the basic general idea of pair bonding, right? It's more like a chemical thing in terms of the level of oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin that's being released in the brain. You kind of burn out those receptors or whatever the I don't know the exact science. I'm not the science guy. Ben is. Maybe he can explain it. But whatever, pair bonding, right? But what I will say to that, sometimes it's a bit of a double standard in the red pill community because they just talk about women's pair bonding ability. Men also have that exact same issue. So when I'm about to talk about the pair bonding thing, I want you to understand this is for both men and women. And I'm talking from my own anecdotal experience, myself having too many experiences as, you know, an almost unhealthy obsession in my early 20s of having as many experiences as I could. I kind of burnt out my own receptors, and now it's a lot harder for me to even connect with women on a deep emotional level because I've also gone out there and done the things. But let's talk about the pair bonding thing. It's a thing, man. Like, just anecdotally from my own experience and talking to other men as well, it's simple. When I've dated and slept with Australian girls, American girls, Canadian girls, English girls, Irish girls, like just Western chicks in general, and then I've also gone and hooked up and slept and dated a lot of Eastern European girls that are a lot more conservative and have a lot less sexual experience, there is a big difference in terms of how the women behave after sex. And you can see it. This is what I'm talking about in terms of burning out their pair bonding receptors. In the Western world, even if you're a real cool guy, you look after yourself, you're attractive, you're successful, you even treat the girl with a huge amount of respect and you give her the best sexual experience ever, it's pretty common to have like a one-night stand from a club or even have a few dates every now and then where you hook up with a girl and then afterwards she just bounces. And you could be an excellent lover, you could be a great communicator, she could have had the best experience, but she's just the type of girl that just wants to go out there and explore, or she doesn't have that same emotional commitment or the same respect for sex as other women do, and they just bounce. That's the only time I've ever had that is with Western chicks where they might hook up maybe with the one time and then just leave. It's because for them, they've had so many different sexual experiences, they don't look at it as like an important thing. Eastern Europeans, just as one example, there's lots of other cultures and societies and cities and countries in which this is experienced too, but I was talking about Eastern Europeans because I've had a lot of experience with them and they're my preference, I love them. As soon as you sleep with them, you can literally feel it. You can see it in front of your eyes and their facial expressions and their body and the way they're interacting with you, how you can feel it energetically. It's almost like they're falling in love with you. You can feel the pair bonding happening. And after that you have sex, like those girls are ready for a relationship, they're committed to you, they don't want to hook up with anyone else, like they're just so happy to be with you. They've built this beautiful connection with you. And it's wonderful, it's lovely to see. But with the Western ones, it's like you can even feel in the sex the girls aren't as present, they're not as almost devoted sexually just to you and in the moment. It's not, I don't know how to explain it, maybe you're pretty good at explaining it, maybe I'll get you.
I describe it as more of a mutual masturbation. It's like, it's two people, kind of separate people, getting their rocks off together, more so than a connecting experience. That's kind of the best way I would describe it subjectively. That being said, it doesn't mean that you don't have girls like fall in love during sex who are Westerners too. I've seen it many times as well. Alex is correct in the fact that if girls have had a lot more experience, they're more likely to have that kind of that mutual masturbation style sex instead of like you watching her fall in love. It doesn't mean this girl can't still pair bond. It just means it usually takes a little bit more for her to say pair bond with someone. Did you have any more to talk about on pair bonding?
I love that Ben always has to calibrate for me or to say something f***ed up. But I appreciate that because I actually have the exact same view. I want to make it very clear that I'm not talking complete shit about Western women, even though they're definitely not my preference. This is something that probably needs to be spoken about. I don't think anyone else speaks about it, especially like dating coaches. There is a point where you have, just like with women, there is a point where if you have too much experience, it actually becomes detrimental to your dating life. And what I mean by that is, I guess it just comes back down to the pair bonding thing. I think for both myself and Ben, now having so much experience, the craving and desire and almost unhealthy need for sexual variety for us to get turned on now is kind of detrimental to our relationships a little bit. Like I'm currently in my first monogamous relationship in almost 7 years, and I've actually been very open with my girlfriend and the struggles that I've had to deal with in terms of the level of openness and intimacy and vulnerability and sexual commitment I've had with her. It's a lot harder for me to go deeper emotionally, and it's a lot harder to get rid of that need for diversity. And I think the only way I can relate this to people that maybe haven't had a lot of experience is like, you guys know when you watch pornography, right? When you first start watching can we say on YouTube?
I'll
just bleep it out. When you guys start watching corn,
when you start watching prawn,
we'll call it prawn. When you guys first start watching prawn, you might start off with some blowjob. You might start off with some lesbian. I'm gonna have to. How many times am I gonna have to?
Lesbian prawn.
Yeah, prawn. You might start off with some lesbian prawn, blowjob prawn. And I hate this censorship crap. Anyway, you might start off with just some like general like man, girl, have boom boom prawn, and then all of a sudden, because you kind of start to crave this variety, like your dopamine starts to want more, all of a sudden you cannot get your rocks off unless you're watching midgets having gangbangs with a giraffe. Like, it just gets so extreme that you can't even get aroused unless you're watching the most f***ed up prawn that's out there. And I think we can all relate to that, right? Like, maybe I'm the only one that does midget midget giraffe gangbangs.
Yeah, the only difference is I'd make sure those midgets are also hunchback. Like, that's the only difference.
Well, I haven't tried that one yet.
Again, burn out those receptors. No, I kind of, bro, totally agree with the diversity thing. You just have this desire for diversity because you're so used to having so many, I want this flavor and this flavor and this flavor. It's hard to go back to monogamy after having so much experience. And also, from a purely sexual sense, I'm going to go into the emotional side of it in a second, but from a purely sexual sense, when you're less experienced, seeing a new naked body is like the most exciting. You're like, holy shit, this is the most amazing experience. You've never seen anything more beautiful. You're so aroused and excited, and it's amazing. But once you've slept with hundreds of women, and if you've gone through a period of where you're having a lot of sex with new girls, all of a sudden it's like a new naked body. You're like, is that it? It's almost like you need a jackhammer to your dick in order to get stimulated because it's just nothing is doing it for you. And it's the exact same thing. I think you get so desensitized to nakedness and sex that it's not even that exciting anymore. And it takes away some of that enjoyment. And sometimes you kind of got to give yourself a bit of a detox and not have sex for a while with a new person in order to get excited to hook up with a new person again. I do know guys who never get sick of it and they just keep going and going and going and going. But I'll be honest, those guys do also have indicators of psychopathy as well, or they have major validation issues that they are constantly needing that constant reassurance that they are worthy and desirable to women, and they're not necessarily doing it from a sexual and biological sense. They're doing it purely so they can feel worthy, exactly like a lot of girls are doing when they're going out and getting by a lot of guys at bars and stuff and they have high leg counts. The exact same thing. We're all the same, except the only difference is for a man to get to a point where he's able to have that much is just way, 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 way harder. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of work, a lot of self-improvement, a lot of development as a man, improving your social skills, improving your social intelligence, improving your physical appearance, improving everything, and optimizing a lot of your life. There is a lot involved, and changing the way you see reality as well. There's a lot of self-development when it comes to a man being able to hook up with a lot of very beautiful women, whereas for a woman, no self-development is involved at all. It's quite simple. They just need to say, I consent, and they will have all the sex they want. No self-development involved. In fact, it can be often detrimental. But again, it is detrimental to men as well to have too much experience. Now, from a pair bonding experience, I think that's also an issue as well, because you have lots of different relationships with lots of different women. There's so many different qualities of different girls that you've dated over the years that you really like, that it's hard to be monogamous with one girl, because often you might feel like you're missing a certain character trait or quality. And I think that that is detrimental for men to have too much experience, because it makes it harder to be monogamous. Having too high of a body count as a man can definitely be detrimental to your ability to pair bond as well. That's kind of the way I see it from a sexual and emotional standpoint.
It's so funny, all these dating coaches out there like promote themselves as like, bunch of sick because, they have like a 500 leg count, but no one actually talks about what it does to the brain. No one actually just sits here and says, boys, you probably shouldn't do that. And then what happens is you got these dating coaches kind of promoting having as many sexual experiences as you possibly can to reach a level of abundance before you get in a long-term relationship. And then you guys idolize the idea of having a lot of experience, and then when you meet like a dope chick, instead of actually just sticking in, man, because you met a keeper, you keep going out there and keep trying to hook up with a bunch of different chicks to feel good about yourself, to reach that point of abundance before you lock something down. And sometimes that's kind of detrimental, man. Like, you guys don't realize there's a certain level of experience that is optimal. There's a certain level of experience that's going to be very beneficial to you as a man. And then there's a certain amount of experience that's just going to be, there's only downsides to it. No one talks about it. Everyone else wants to promote like how cool it is to do it. It's actually, I look back at it, I don't regret my time doing the stuff that I've done. I've had a good time, man. If you guys knew the shit that I got up to, you'd be like, what the But at the exact same time, I do question for the long term when I get a little bit older and I want some form of monogamous relationship where I want to go deeper emotionally and not have to get that craving for diversity. I don't know how I'm going to do monogamy. The only thing I can think of is maybe finding a bisexual girlfriend. And, even then, though, my biggest fear is even if I was to have a bisexual girlfriend, it would be cool to keep having new chicks. But my problem is what happens when I have just my main girl? Because I've had this experience before in a previous relationship where we did have threesomes together. I was just so excited for the new thing. And not my girlfriend. Like, I was like, oh, the new toy, this is so exciting, woohoo! But then the old toy, I was like, oh, do I have to? Do you know what I mean? And I get scared that even if I get a girlfriend, I travel the world together and we pull threesomes all the time, I'll probably still be in that boat. And that's the dark side of being a dating coach, or even just a guy that's gone out there and had a lot of experiences. So, yeah, did you want to mention some stuff on the emotional side? Or?
Yeah, no, I just think that you're completely right in terms of we shouldn't be idolizing having crazy high lay counts. And when you look at some of the guys who have like obscenely high lay counts, that's usually an indicator that one, they're not that picky, number one, and two, they've probably hooked up with some as well. Just saying.
Not mentioning any names.
Yeah, not mentioning any names. So, yeah, and I usually notice the guys who have, again, obscenely high lay counts tend to have some psychopathic tendencies, or they are fighting demons. So, yeah, just to let you, just making you aware that it's not necessarily something that we should all be idolizing. It's something that we should all be trying to do. And again, just like Alex said, there is an optimal amount of experience you should have. You should be trying to have a few relationships before you lock down your final relationship, because you don't want to be absolutely inexperienced completely and end up with a girl who's not a good fit for you, or who potentially brings you down emotionally, or makes your home a place that isn't a place of peace, or isn't sexually compatible with you, etc., etc. There is so many vast variety of things that could be wrong with a relationship. So you should have some relationship experiences and some one-night stands, etc. But you don't need to go out there and have an obscene amount of sexual experience just to say, oh, I'm choosing from a place of abundance. You do not need to do that. Enough experience, but not too much, because again, just as we said, there are some downsides to it.
And to probably wrap up most of the points that we're saying here is like, listen, limited experience for both men and women is not beneficial. You want to have your fair share of experience if you're a man, and you also want to have your share of experience for a woman. And I think you should actually, because there's a massive double standard here, you should probably just, not shame women so heavily for their sexuality in terms of if she's not a virgin, you're not going to date her. If anything, you should see it as a benefit. She's probably going to be a better communicator, a better lover, a better partner in the long run. But there is too many for both men and women, and I think what we should do now is we should probably we're going to talk about like how many is too many for both sexes and what's probably the ideal amount for both sexes as well. And when I say this, for you idiot feminists out there that might look at this content and get all grumpy, this is just a preference. Just like you girls, like a guy that's like 6'5" and makes lots of money and is really good looking, blah, blah, blah. Understand that we as men also have a preference, but I'm mostly just speaking for me and Ben, and we're going to just give our ideal numbers when it comes to lay count in terms of what we think is a good amount for guys to have, and then maybe what's too much, what's not enough, and then same goes for the women.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go, baby. Cancel time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah. Well, you got a pretty good. I think.
All right. I have a general.
Agree with Ben's numbers.
I have a general idea. I think a fair amount. If you're looking at a girl
we should do the differences for Western countries and Eastern European countries.
So if you're looking at a girl, if you're meeting a girl in a Western country, you got to understand that culturally, it's a lot more normal for her to have a bit more sex. It's just how it is. So I think a fair number is something around like. And it's going to change with age too. Obviously, if she's older, she's going to have had more time to have more experiences. It's just how it is. But I think a fair number would be something like 5 by the time she's 20, and then at 1 more for every year after that. Now, I'm not saying she only needs to have sex with one person per year. What I'm saying is during that period, she's probably going to have relationships, time off where she doesn't hook up with a new person for a very long time. And that is a good thing. She should have some relationships. If a girl's number is too high, it's usually an indicator she hasn't had enough relationship experience or people aren't locking her down. So again, 5 by the time she's 20 and then 1 per year for every year after that is a fair number. So if she's 30, then it would be like 15. If she's 25, it would be 10. I think that's a fair number. It's reasonably conservative, but not too conservative. And I think that that's a good number of experience for her to have in order to kind of have an idea about what's out there and what she likes and whether you're special when you do actually get together. Now, again, this isn't like if you do meet a girl and she's perfect for you and you're like, oh, she's 25, but she's been with 15 people. She's a whore. And I can't date her, bro, because Ben said she needs to be with 10. It's like, no, bro, it's okay. It's fine.
We're just talking about in the ideal world for us, what we think's like a decent number where she's had enough experience that she's not going to get curious and she also knows what she wants, but then also enough that, but not too many that she's like fried her receptors and can't pair bond and she's probably going to go out and cheat on you with your
Look at us
mate.
Trying to appease the feminists and the algorithm gods.
With this content, guys, we're trying to the absolute best of our ability to just give our honest opinion and feedback without getting cancelled. We just have to give some nuances and calibrate a little bit so people don't go and have a tantrum and don't end up on like CNN or some shit.
So yeah, I think that's a general good number. And again, let's be reasonable with it. If she's 25 and she's hooked up with like 50 dudes, yeah, that's pretty high, man. That's a red flag to me. That's high. If she's 20 and she's hooked up with 50 dudes, that's a real big red flag, my friend.
I've actually got some nuances to that. So that's like just a personal preference for both myself and I agree with what Ben's saying. That would be ideal. Again, if there's more, it's fine. Whatever, we can do it.
Great, like, but not too little.
Yeah. But
not too little. Give or take 5 to 10.
It's like arguing with the f***ing camera, bro. It's a f***ing chippy choppy. Anyway, hopefully it's entertaining for you guys. Anyway, so that's for a long-term relationship, yeah? We probably need to put emphasis on that. If you're looking for a long-term partner, you're looking for potential marriage, you're looking for the mother of your children, that would be an ideal number. Now, if you guys are out there and you want to enjoy casual dating, you want to enjoy having new experiences, you want to explore your sexuality, you want to try new shit, then this is where you should just like, bro, it's okay if a chick's had a lot of experience and she's a little bit more promiscuous, because if anything, she can probably teach you a thing or two, and you're out there doing the exact same thing. So if it's for short-term dating, then for me, I don't really give a shit about how many a woman has slept with, unless it's like crazy amounts, and I kind of worry about STIs and shit like that. That's the one thing you have to worry about is your sexual health. But that's where it's just like, dude, have fun. Like, she's in her fun stage, you're in your fun stage, go for it. But if you're looking for a long-term partner, I'm not even giving advice to you guys, actually. I'm not even telling you that's what you should do. That's just what I do when it comes to a long-term partner. Yeah. Now let's talk about for men. Here comes the double standard.
And again, the most important thing is that you guys, you like her, and you've had enough experience to know that you know she's special, and she's had enough experience to know that you're special. That's the most important thing. This is not dogmatic. This is not you have to do this, okay? For men, what did you want to go into on this?
I don't know. Me and Ben have never really sat here and said what's the best numbers for a guy, because I know we're about to hit a double standard here, because we're probably going to suggest. I'm going to talk about for me, now that I've had as much experience as I've had. If I was to redo life again, and I wasn't to be dating. Nah, I still would have lived the life I lived. I had some amazing experiences. I don't regret it. But I think for like the average guy that doesn't have like an unhealthy obsession with figuring out this whole dating thing and wants to have every experience under the sun, which I've done and Ben's done as well, I think for like a safe number for you guys is probably like between 25, like depending how old you are, I would say 25 to 50. And you go above 50, you're starting to play in the mode where it's like, okay, you're really racking up some numbers now, which is...
You a poonhound, my friend. You're getting in poonhound territory.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, and you're gonna start getting addicted to that variety. You can go a little bit higher than that, guys. Like, look, I'm not gonna talk about exactly how many women I've been with. I actually have lost count, to be honest. I stopped counting after a certain number. Yeah, I just noticed probably after 100 was the time that I started to struggle with the pair bonding stuff. And it's like that's why I'm saying about 25 to 50 is enough for you guys to get it out of your system, have the experiences. Enjoy some casual dating, throw in a threesome there if you can, have some fun, and then you should probably start settling the down and look for something a bit more serious if you're ready for that party life. You can go higher than that. I'm just saying, at least for me, that's what I experienced. And I think too high, for an average guy, man, like you're going over 100, you're just playing in danger zone. And the safe number, I'd say, is anywhere between 25 to 50. That's at least how I would think of it. I don't know. What about you?
25 to 50 is actually genuinely enough experience for a man to know what he wants
if you're 18,
and knows what he likes.
That's up. Like, you shouldn't be trying to pump out those sorts of numbers. Let's just say, like...
No, good on you. That's impressive.
No, it is, but it's
I'm actually not even mad.
No, I'm just...
That's really impressive. Jealous, well done. If you're 18, you've done that, bro.
Yeah, bro.
And you're a dude, well done. If you're a girl... Disgusting. Anyways.
Oh, please don't cancel me.
That's actually impressive, bro. Shit, because it's not easy. It's not fucking easy. Well done. So, I personally have lost count as well. The people who do, I deleted the list years ago when I realized I was a bit addicted to validation, so I have just lost count. I think people who do keep count and have the exact number once they're in the hundreds, bro, what the f*** are you doing? Like, what are you actually, like, what are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? Like, that's, I don't know. It's a little bit intense. I think there's a level of self-development that's necessary to look back. Like, it's hard to get to a point where you can hook up with that many people, but if you hook up with so many and you're still keeping the exact number, I think it's time to look at yourself and be like, okay, like what am I missing here? Like, what am I trying to fill?
And one of the main focuses that we have here at Social Freedom too, just to be like level with you guys and be real, we don't want to heavily promote promiscuous behavior on both ends, even for the men that we coach. Like, I think you guys should go out and have your fair share of experience. I don't want to be a hypocrite and I've had all these crazy experiences in my life and like sit here and say don't do that. If you want to do it, do it. But honestly, guys, like, we promote heavily on building genuine, deep connections with high quality women. It's a quality over quantity perspective that we have. And in the end, like, I think even for us, it's like the only reason why we went out and did the crazy things that we did is probably because when we were younger, we didn't get the love that we wanted from either our parents, our siblings, our social circles, and most importantly from the women that we desired, the crushes that we had. We never get the quality that we wanted, so we had a validation problem. So we kind of had to go out there and make ourselves feel better and go and have all these crazy experiences to validate that inner child. But in the end, now I look back at it all, it's like, what was my most favorite experiences in all of that? Wasn't the degeneracy of the years in the clubs and having the one-night stands, the orgies, or setting up the sex parties and doing all this wild stuff. It was just the highest quality women with the deepest, most genuine, authentic connections, and having those girlfriend experiences was genuinely the highlight to everything that I've done. And I think for you guys out there too, once you've had your experience, you guys should do that too. Because honestly, it's going to be very beneficial to you, and you're going to look back at that fondly more so than the crazy experiences you had. And the same goes for the women. If chicks are watching this as well, it's like, go out there and have your fun, but in the end, you're going to always cherish your relationships over, the time that you had your first devil's threesome.
You're going to cherish it more than the time you got tagged up by 3 guys at a house party. Bro, that was so well articulated. I think that was beautiful, and I couldn't agree more. It is definitely an experience. And if I had actually one regret, I don't regret like how I lived my life. I've had some amazing experiences, connect with some amazing people, and I have had some beautiful memories that I've built. But the one thing I actually do regret is not cherishing those connections as much as I probably should, because I was so obsessed with, you know, the next experience, the next girl, just getting stuck on that dopamine treadmill. And there's a few connections that I had during those periods that it's like, I wish I appreciated it more at the time, because it was actually quite beautiful. But I was so obsessed with getting better, working on my social skills, racking up numbers, etc., that I didn't appreciate them enough. So that is the only regret that I have. So what I would say is, yes, if you're on your journey and you're trying to improve this part of your life, yes, it's absolutely okay for you to want to have a certain amount of diversity. I don't want to be a hypocrite, but appreciate the connections that you make on the way, because those are going to be the memories that you have at the end that are most beautiful. Appreciate them. Appreciate those moments. Appreciate those experiences, because yeah, in the end, it's the quality of the connections that you build, and the quantity is not what makes you happy. I can tell you, I thought and I was hoping that hooking up with hundreds of women would make me happy. It didn't. That's not what made me happy. It was the development that came with working on this part of my life that definitely improved my happiness, and understanding myself better that improved my happiness. But racking up numbers does not make you happy. And if that's what you're hoping for, then that's not the solution that you need. However, I will say that building beautiful connections with people, you're able to build better connections with people when you are coming from a place of more self-awareness and more self-development, more just underlying confidence in yourself. You are able to build more healthy connections and connect with more high-quality people as well. So that is one thing I would say. But again, I can't really articulate any of those other points better than Alex, because he's completely correct.
I feel like I've said enough about leg count now. So just to wrap the video up, guys, in the end, I guess one of the titles of the videos, we haven't actually come up with the complete title yet. We'll come up with something fancy so you guys watch it. But basically, does body count matter? I think the consensus is yes, it does matter. And yeah, that was it.
But not as much as you think. And that's it.
So to wrap things up, if you guys enjoy this a little bit more, I guess you could say, slightly controversial, more edgy, more real and authentic content by me and Ben, then you guys need to leave some comments, like the video and subscribe, obviously, but leave some comments and let us know, because we are trying to experiment a little bit. We want to show a little bit more of our personalities. We want to make our content a bit more real. I understand, like, a lot of the videos that I make, it's very structured, it's professional, it's like all about dating skills, social skills, confidence, how to improve cold approach and stuff like that. But at the same time, I want to make stuff educational and entertaining and show more of my personality, and Ben's in the exact same boat. We just want to be a little bit more real with you guys and actually connect with the audience. So if you actually really do genuinely enjoy this stuff, you don't understand, like, every time we get a comment and someone says, I love that video, we get inspired to make more content. And this podcast style stuff is fun. I enjoy this. This is even more fun than giving the traditional educational content. We're always going to do that to give you guys tips, tricks, techniques, social skills, all the things that can help you in the dating world, and also most importantly help you just become a better version of yourself, a more attractive version of yourself, and really become just an elite human being when it comes to your masculinity and your attractiveness, and just become a sick really. But this type of content's fun too. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next rant.
And if you want coaching, links in the description. If you want to join our Facebook group, link in the description. Jump on a call with us, link in description. Thanks, love you, see you in the next video.